Give me a minute, please. Is that better?
Looks good, thank you.
Okay.
Looks good.
Can you see my screen?
No.
How about now?
There it is.
Okay.
We got it. Okay.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. My studies of today is going to be about food. And I know the issue of foods always come up every time. And it is something that I personally wrestle with every day, if not at all, or most of the time. And I was like, maybe we should look at it again. Uh, I know Elder Pimenta talk a lot about the issue of diet, and yeah, it has been a thing that I've been wrestling with it all the time, and I want us to get a clarity about it, uh, if not at all today or within the time we are still living on Earth here, to at least understand uh, what we are eating. So my study is basically based on most of the studies that Elder Pimenta have like done recently. I think it was 2024 in August in Slovakia. Uh, and he talked a lot about that, about coffee and about the 17th vow of the baptism, which where everything is in within that frame. He went ahead to talk about the Eden diet, and he did a comparison with the diet that we have right now. We call it vegan diet, uh, and or a plant-based diet. And I just want us to have a good understanding of what we actually identify ourselves with. Because personally, like whenever I go outside and talk to people or my friend, like invite me for food or something like that, I'll just tell them I'm vegan. I know it's not like really accurate representation of what I eat, but I just tell them to make it easier for them. And also, I came to the realization that actually that's not what I really meant when I say I'm a vegan. Uh, and it is hard also to explain to them I'm not a vegan. Then like, what are you then? Then I'll tell them I don't eat these things that are also in the vegan food or vegan or plant-based diet. Then they're like, okay, now we don't know what to give you. So it is really, really hard for me to put myself into one thing with them and like make them like find a food for me. Most of the time, they just give me fruit. I'm like, okay, yeah, thank you. I will I will take that. Or sometimes they'll give me highly processed food, which are really, really that I don't like them. And they were like, "Oh, this are vegan. This is vegan." No, like I cannot argue with them that actually the high processed food is vegan. In true definition of vegan, that could be a vegan. And if you say no, then like, okay, now we don't know what to do. So I want us all to understand what we meant by calling ourselves that we eating diet, or some people will say like vegan, some people will say like whole food, plant based. And my argument is that the Eden diet is not equal to the whole food plant based diet that we are intending to. And I want to hear most of your thought on that.
What was your question exactly?
My question is that like the Eden diet is not equal to the diet that we are intending, or what the lifestyle we are currently like following. Like the diet that we are following currently is not equal to the diet that we intend to.
And you wanted to hear us say something in regard to that?
I want us to like define these two diet. So like for me, like I don't see a similarity between these two diet. Though there's some similarities, and also like there are no similarities at some point. There are differences and there are also like similarities between these two diet.
So, I mean, I understand that in Eden they mostly ate fruit,
Okay.
and in our world today, we're supposed to be eating vegetables,
Okay.
along with fruit, whole grains, protein. I mean, I break it down into macros: protein, carbs, fats, um, whatever benefits your particular body at your particular stage of life is kind of how I describe it. But I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was looking for. So like
Mhm.
what was intended is not what we are doing right now. Exact to be exact. So they're not like actually equal to that.
So my question would be, what is the diet that we are um, currently consuming?
Exactly. Thank you. That was thank you, Lisa. That's what I was trying to like uh get out of that.
Well, if I can have an input, um, I don't know if like there's an exact name to put the diet that we are currently consuming because I would say to a degree that circumstances can alter conditions. And I think on the conditions we would have to modify um how we eat or what we're eating. But to its core, or just to keep the concept that we are trying to keep our bodies in the best condition possible. So I think under conditions where someone may live in a country where the climate is always cold and they may not have access to produce like we do here. So I think the message will have to be adapted to whatever they can get their hands on, whether it's some beans or it's probably going to be fish. So I think I don't know if there was a definite term to place on how we should be eating now. But I do believe that the ultimate goal is for us to recover health and to get the body in the best condition possible. And but how that will look for each of us, I don't know if that's gonna be the same.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great point. Because not everyone and whether they're regarding where they're located can consume the same types of quality, excuse me, of food as well. But more often than not, you should have a fat, protein, and a carb, good carbs. And but the other question that I wanted to follow up with is, so I asked, what is the diet that we would be consuming right now? And then also, when it comes to why we're consuming that diet, um, according to, salvation, or, how do we identify if this is the right diet to consume, etc. That would kind of be a follow-up question for me regarding this presentation.
Thank you. Uh, I want to ask like a question like, uh, when I was being baptized, I think I committed to the vow of 17. And most of us who have been baptized, when we go to vow 17, it does not differentiate the condition any individual is living in. Either you are in the cold place or in a place where you have access to the plan or to whatever like vow 17 say. It does not like specify that. It just say don't, like, is it your purpose to obey this way of eating? And then the list goes on. Then this one, that it all goes on. And when I thought about that, like, there was no specific uh thing that was there. Like, okay, if you're a person who live in that place, okay, you cannot like commit to that vow. So the way I see it was like, okay, this is what the vow said, and this, if you like accept when you were being baptized, that's what the Bible said. Then you should follow. I know like issues can rise up like, okay, I cannot like follow this what the Bible said in based on the condition I'm in. So what does that mean?
So are you asking if it's like if it's the if it would be right or if it would be wrong, considering you know, I guess what was, are you asking according to what was in the baptismal vows or
Yeah.
finding?
What was the point of baptismal that baptismal vow 17? What was the point of it?
The way I see it is that we're reminded about the good advice that Ellen White gave us from the revelation that she received all the way back from 1863 and how it's applicable to us today. The way that it was written, as you're pointing out, Emmanuel,
Yeah.
wasn't sufficient for everyone. So that's why, in my understanding, or how I see it, that's why Elder Permender taught the Slovakia camp and had us kind of bring our attention onto diet, especially in light of if we're not following our baptismal vows, then how they're written, then maybe we need to do something about that. And so the Slovakia camp opening up, how the environment changed, right? In Eden, we had environment 1, then sin brought environment 2, or the environment changed as a consequence of new conditions needing to be present in order for restoration to take place. So that's the principle behind the policy of vow 17 as it was written when you took your vows, that we had good advice to uphold as best as we could within our own conditions. And so I understand the dilemma that you're trying to answer. I think what you're trying to answer is how to reconcile eating outside of what the vows are telling us to, and how to reconcile that. Is that how am I correct in viewing things?
I mean, I would not say that per se for itself, but I'm not trying like to reconcile the way I eat with the way Bao uh like instruct me to eat. So like I believe I'm eating like the way what Bao said, and what Bao said also is like not like definite. It's not like that and that. So like let me say, it's not exactly like the eating diet by itself. If you define what Bao said and you just leave out whatever Bao said, don't touch it, at the end you will come to realize that there's no difference with what that which is out there right now, like whole food plant based. There's no difference with that with what Bao said. So if you follow like a whole food plant based diet, you're exactly doing what the Bao said. So and if you follow a vegan diet, you're going to run into like also like unhealth with like into health issues also because like vegan diet can allow you to eat like ultra processed food, which that's not ideal of the vow. Of the vow wanted to be healthy. So that's what I was trying to like us to see that.
So it's about upholding the spirit rather than the letter of the law. Like upholding veganism doesn't mean ultra processed. It means eating what's healthy for our body in accordance with the environment that we're in.
Like veganism is not exactly like according to the definition, the guy who came up with the idea of veganism, it was like based on ethical reason, based on animals. So because you avoid it because you have like empathy for animals, and you don't want to kill animals. That was like ethical issue that the guy came up in 1944 with the idea of veganism. And if you call yourself a vegan, anyone can see you as somebody like that. Because you choose that diet because of ethical reason. That's what I'm trying to say. And
So that's
that's not exactly what the vow 17 uh, uh, is instructing us to do.
okay. Keep going.
So I was like, with this all kind of identity out there, like there's a vegan, there's a vegetarian, there's a plant-based, all of them, they're not exactly uh, accurate. They're not like really represent exactly what uh, the uh, the vow 17 intended. That's what I'm trying to say.
Emmanuel,
Yes.
morning, amigo.
Morning,
Happy,
amigo.
happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
I guess for me, it's what divides all this vegetarian and veganism and all that is the word healthy. Is it healthy for you? Because there's vegan cheeses, even though they say vegan, and you look at the contents and like some of them are so processed and a lot of oil and things like that, and they're not really healthy for you, even though they have vegan splashed across the bag or the box or whatever you get them in. And I think for me, I have to take a little time just to sit in the store and read all the ingredients in it because they even have vegan bacon right now, things like that, they're kind of trying to draw us back to where we were originally before we went into veganism. And I mean by the people who make all these foods. And
So what I got from what you just said, Emmanuel, um, and correct me if I'm, wrong or right, but is that you're trying to figure out, or at least you're asking, well, when this person came up with this term, um, it was it it was ethical for them. You said, they didn't want to kill animals. That was
Yes,
the reason why they
yes,
came up with it. And for us, at least I don't, and I'm just going to be honest, when I entered this movement, I don't believe I remember me becoming a vegan because we, we all came to a consensus that we're against killing animals. I think I just, I consumed that diet because it was very healthy. And I had came to the conclusion that this was a very healthy diet to consume. But but that was it. I don't think, I saw a couple of, slaughterhouse videos and I was like, well, that's pro. But that wasn't like the bottom line for me. I'm just being honest because I don't remember that. But I'm trying to see if that is like the discrepancy.
thank you. I mean, like, I can assume that most of us, yeah, adapt this diet because of health issues. And we all understand that. But the world out there who understood veganism differently, they don't. So when you go out there and like say, okay, I don't do this and don't do that, they're like, I mean, you might be kind of this kind type of vegan. So you need to like, you're trying to figure out what kind of veganism are you exactly. You know what I'm saying? You say like for the health issues, okay. And also they will, if for the health issue, they will understand that. And also they will still offer you this kind of vegan food that amigo Francisco was saying that you can get a cheese which is vegan, which is highly processed. You can get chicken with like vegan, which is highly processed too, which is not like good for your health. So that one goes to knock out your health too, your health. So the understanding of vegan is different exactly from the way we understand veganism. And if you say, okay, that's not how I understand veganism. Okay, where do you understand your veganism? Where do you get your definition of veganism? Then at the end, you're going to go to secular definition, which is exactly what they are saying. That was the point I was trying to make. And also, like, there's also like a whole food plant-based that which is out there, came out of veganism because like uh because of a health issue. Which now you say I'm plant-based and on plant-based diet. Well, okay, they will understand that you are basically following your diet because of health. And also some of the plant-based diet also they're also like they're not pure as we intend our diet to be pure. They're not like they're all also like they're also corrupted out there. So what I was trying to say, like, there are a lot of articles, studies that have been made there, and with those studies, they found out that whole food plant based is the most healthiest diet right now, based on the current studies. And if what people know exactly is not actually none, not a lot of people knows that. It's only few. If I can say, like in America here, there are only like 2% of people that are vegan. And also, if you factor that the issue of plant-based people inside it, I mean, it will be like 0.0 something that are following that kind of diet. So And what I was trying to it's like, how do we navigate this all that are out there? We don't even fit our description of our diet.
Do we need to have it labeled? And especially if each person to a degree has, I mean, not maybe not every person, but there will exist a percentage within each different population within the world that there's going to be unique features that they're going to require that's different from the majority of the group. So why should we label our diet as a whole anyway?
We don't need to label it.
And it also makes me think about if someone gets sick, if someone gets, ill, and they they may need a really grand amount of protein, and etc. in their diet. They might, if it makes it easier for them, they may need some extra supplementation. And so, would God just say, that's it for you? I don't know. It's, it can be.
Sorry, who was that, please?
Linda. Oh, the person before me, that was Taisia. Don't know how to say her name.
I mean, the person who was just
Tasia.
Okay. Well, this is Linda anyway. What she just said, she's talking about, getting sick. I came into the Adventist church through the health message. I was already into healthy eating. I was just eating a large amount of animal products at the time, but no junk. I had been doing that for years. I was perfectly happy with what I was doing, but it was affecting me a certain way. It was massively plunging my blood sugar levels, and it had gone on for a decade or more. By the time I was in college, didn't know why. And then when I did convert to vegan, it helped a lot. It totally leveled out my blood sugar because a vegan diet is very high carb, much less protein and much more carb. And I sailed along pretty well for decades. I was a bit low on muscle. It did cause a bit of sarcopenia for me. Um, and then in recent years, I came down with some health issues. Um, and I started getting hollered at by doctors to increase my protein, based on my blood panel results and things like that. And I just decided I was going to try to do things differently than that and tried extra supplementation. In the recent times, it's kind of gotten worse. And I, you know, started adding more supplementation, protein shakes and such. Still wasn't hitting my goals. And the goals when women get older and go through perimenopause and menopause become exceedingly high, especially if you're exercising and very active. And it's practically extremely, impossible to hit those protein goals on a vegan diet. And I am sensitive to dairy, so I really don't have that option of adding that. So started seeing a dietitian, getting help with exercise. Certain things were not getting better. My weight, just in certain parts of my body's going the wrong way. But anyway, I decided against, everything I had ever done and believed in, that I was going to try to add some meat to my diet. and I'm not the only one that's doing that. And just to see what would happen. And I did increase my protein intake tremendously. I will say this, I don't like it. Meat to me tastes like it has no flavor. Probably because I'm not putting all the gunk into it that, people put on their meat to make it taste like something. It helped in certain ways. I'm struggling with it. I much prefer my vegan food. But I don't know if I have too many options. I don't want to live on protein shakes. I mean, and when I mentioned phase of life we're in earlier, that's kind of, everybody, for some people, they have a disease and they, that I've spoken to anyway, they have to include some kind of meat periodically in their diets. And I have found others who have been struggling with the same thing I'm struggling with. And it's just not something you could, we have any choice in. Um, so it's been a very short time that I've been doing this. I don't know what's going to happen with it. But yeah, glucose levels, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum now. My glucose has been too high. And I'd have to eat a tremendous amount of beans, which don't always agree with me these days, to accomplish. I eat nuts, seeds, beans. I'm very meticulous. The nutritionist is fairly impressed with my diet, but I really have to watch carbs and I really have to increase protein. So, yeah, some of us are in a situation where our health is being heavily impacted by trying to do things the way we've always done them. So yeah,
Hello,
it's a struggle.
Linda.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, about the perimenopausal,
I know it's killing.
because it's so crazy because I'll be what, 35, and so
Yeah.
I'm getting, I'm getting there, and I just, wanted to say that is also something that, I've been kind of looking into, because I'm like, I do exercise and, it does
Yeah.
help, but like you were saying, that protein intake has to
Yeah.
increase. And then those are like the factors, those are some of the factors and things that come into place when it comes to a vegan diet. And
Mhm.
I just, just being honest, it's something that I've contemplated for some time, regarding, well, am I going to get struck by lightning? You know what I mean? If I, you know, include, maybe some salmon or
Yeah.
chicken breast in my diet, because for health reasons, this needs to increase. And when you are perimenopausal, a lot of things happen to your body that it's new for you. And so that is also a very great point that you brought up, and it brings a lot of questions then, right, into your
Mhm.
diet, and you consider it with seriousness. But yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up. I'd like to get your number or your email after.
I could talk your ears off, believe me. I mean, the journey I've been on. When I was in perimenopause, the doctor started hollering at me. I have these problems, and they're telling me to do things. I'm like, no, I can't do that. What am I going to do? And so you fight it, and you fight it, and you fight it for years because you don't think anybody else is going through it, and you get worse off and worse off, or you just never get better. And I can say this, since I added some meat this last week, my gut, the fat portion has gone down. I mean, we focus on exercise, 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 but I was told by a woman who weightlifted professionally that the diet is a big factor. If you're starting to have these symptoms, and I'm going to say this now for everybody like you and me, I'm in the menopause portion, you're in the peri. You are at a point where you can start making really good changes or important changes to make the rest of that road run a little smoother. Someone from the UK just touched with me in the last week having the same problems, and I started telling her the same thing that I'm saying now. I don't like meat. I've lost my taste for it years ago. It's a struggle for me to go back and learn how to make it and make it the way I can stand to eat it, which if you take away the fat and the blood, it has no flavor. You're going to have to pummel it with something. And,
I thought the salmon turned out really good.
oh,
Sorry to interrupt y'all, but there's two hands up in the group.
Oh, okay.
Fel and Marsha.
Fel hand is up, so Fel, can you please and then Mercy. Then
Yeah, this is
Mercy.
this is Fel. Good morning. Happy Sabbath.
Hi, Fel.
Yeah, it's a wonderful discussion regarding diet and whole foods, plant-based. This is all wonderful. But this is part of health, and health is much broader than just diet. And so, when we take, I know this discussion is mainly focused on diet, but if we just focus on diet and isolate our conversation to diet, we're missing the whole picture, the big picture, which is health. And as we heard the discussion about perimenopause, menopause, hormonal changes. Men's hormonal changes are different than women's hormonal changes. Women are more affected by the hormonal changes than men are. Sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? I mean, you can have the best diet in a world, but if you don't get enough rest, not just sleep, but rest, that affects your health. Vegan diet, that's great if you have high blood pressure and your blood glucose are high, they're out of whack. Then vegan diet is it could be temporary to lower your blood glucose and your cholesterol, your blood pressure.
Didn't lower my blood glucose anymore.
Yeah, so and then we're at different phases. We're at different phases of our lives that our diets needs to change. I had a very good healthy diet, but because being a firefighter, waking up all middle of the night, sleep was lacking, and a lot of the the colds that I got was due to that. So there's a lot of different factors. There's a study that was done in I mean, you probably all read it. The China, I don't know, Colin Campbell's, I think, the Dr. Colin Campbell, the China study, and they had hardly any protein. Most of their diet was plant-based carbs, very little protein. But there were rural workers who were out in the farm and needed the carbs for their energy level to be out there, slow working, but energy expending all day long, pretty much. And they advocated no protein. Well, then here we hear, well, you got to have at least 1 gram of protein per body weight, right? So if you're 120 pounds, then you got 120 grams of protein. But at the same time, a lot of those studies are based on athletes, right? So athletes who need all the muscles, or who try to stay fit in their most prime, in their 20s and 30s. So they base their advice on their study of high quality, experts and athletes. Exactly, and most studies have been done on men. So, it behooves each and every one of us to know our bodies and what stage of life are you in. Are you active? Are you not active? We have a general idea of what food is good for our bodies. Right? So, are you getting enough rest? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you forest bathing? Are you out there enjoying your sunshine? How about relationships? Studies have proven that if you're ill, if you have a good, solid relationships with your group of friends or family who loves you, you come out of your illness much quicker and heal faster than those who are isolated. So, take all these things into consideration when you're thinking about your diet, when you're thinking about what's best, for you. And don't just take, so know yourself, know your body, know that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. And, you can listen to expert advice, but also when you listen to the expert advice, regarding diet, in what context is there studies? So don't just take one advice and, so, oh, this is great, I got to have more protein, or this is great, I got to have more carbohydrates. We know generally what's good for us. So my advice is know yourself, know that God made each and every one of us fearfully and wonderfully made. We all go through different stages. We are sometimes we have certain things that other people don't genetically. We've experienced certain things as childhood that so things change, and we're all the same, but yeah, we're all different. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you, Fael. Messi?
Hi, Emmanuel. Good morning,
Hi.
everyone. Happy Sabbath. Well, I'm really grateful to you for having this study because I really enjoyed Elder Parmenter's studies in Slovakia in August of last year. I have my own personal story. I was vegan. Well, I really started in 2009 because I was involved with the yoga community. And there's a big, push there for veganism. And I went on to study yoga, and I even became a teacher. So I was heavily into that community for many years. And then, of course, I started veganism, but, I'd start and then stop, start, stop. So finally, when I started going to the Adventist church, I decided, okay, this is the time. I'm going to become full vegan. And I was vegan for 10 years. And, it just changed my whole life with veganism. And no one in my family was vegan. And, my kids would say, oh boy, we hope this doesn't change how mom's going to be cooking meals. And it didn't. I didn't change. I still cooked for them when they came here, but I became vegan. So I was happily going along. Contacted the movement in March of last year after hearing a sermon about organization that Elder Parmenter did. So I just put a little note in the, I think it was the Midnight Watch ministry, that, you know, I was trying to find out where did I fit in with all of this, because he was talking about organization and leaders and members. And I said, well, I don't really know where I fit in. I've been following all of the messages for so long. So I put a note in and I got a response, and they put me in touch with Kathy McGraw in March of last year. And we talked by phone. We had a wonderful conversation, a very long conversation actually. And she put me in touch with Elaine, and that's my story so far. So I was put in touch with Aaron so I could start baptismal vows. So my first lesson was on April 29th. So I was going along just great, and doing my lessons and happy as I could be. And so it's much more convoluted, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but I found out that I had to have a tooth extracted because of an infection. I had been going to the same dentist for many, many years, and evidently some of the work that he had done had caused an infection. So I had to have a tooth extracted. And once that tooth was extracted, I had to be on antibiotics for about a month. And that was April, I think it was April 25th that I got the extraction. So I'm going along, I'm doing my baptismal vows, I'm living my life. And I'm beginning to, in May, early May, I began to feel kind of lethargic and tired. And that's not me, because I'm usually very busy and active. So this went on for about 3 weeks. So my son said, you know, Mom, you really need to go to the hospital and see what's wrong. I said, no, nothing's wrong. But anyway, long story short, May 21st of last year, I got so sick, I had to go to emergency. And I went in and told them, you know, the symptoms I was having, extreme thirst, and I had to urinate a lot. So immediately they took my blood sugar, and it was 747. So they said, wow, you're going into ICU. And I'm thinking, oh no, this can't be happening. So anyway, I was admitted, and you know, the shunt at my veins, both sides, insulin. And there's a certain threshold you have to meet, and you know, God is good. I only had to be in there overnight because they got everything. I forget what it's the door, some kind of a gap that they have to make sure you meet. And thankfully, I met that gap. But what happened was, as a result of that, I had to become insulin dependent. And before they dismissed me, they had to show me how to inject myself 3 times a day with 2 types of insulin. There's fast acting and long acting. So that was a shock because I'm scared of needles, so I had to do that. And when the dietitian came in to talk to me about my diet, he asked me, you know, and I told him, I said, well, I'm vegan. I've been vegan for 10 years. And he says, well, you're going to have protein. He says, because your body can't tolerate a lot of carbohydrates. And I thought, oh my. And here I am being counseled for baptismal, you know, vows and what have you. So anyway, long story short, I had to get off of the vegan diet because the only way I can manage my carbohydrates now, which I can't have many of, is because I have to balance everything out with proteins. And what has happened over time, that was in May. I was supposed to go to the August camp meeting to get baptized, and you know, that was impossible because here I am having to do these syringes and all that. And I said, I can't do that. So I had to cancel out. And during my baptismal vows, I mentioned to Aaron, just in passing, I didn't elaborate that, I had gotten very sick. And, he listened and what have you. So long story short, I finished the baptismal vows. I didn't know how I was going to get baptized because it's too hard for me to travel with having to do the insulin. But the blessing has been that I did get baptized, thanks to Elder Parminder. Praise God for him. He was able to come here and baptize me. And I got baptized. I requested an endocrinologist, so I'm under an endocrinologist now. I don't inject myself anymore. I have an insulin pump, which does that for me. Basically, it's all programmed with my phone. It's just amazing technology. But the reason I'm sharing my story with you is that I had to stop becoming a vegan. As Linda said, as Kyle said, your circumstances really dictate what you have to do in order. And Phil also made reference to it. You have to take care of your health. And thank God we serve a God who's understanding of all of this. And, I was shocked to see how many carbohydrates are in vegan food. I think, that was mentioned earlier. And Francisco mentioned about the bacon and all that. It's just so processed. And even if you eat vegetables, I was down to 127 pounds. I'm about 5 feet 6 inches. And I was so gaunt and so thin that, I had to rearrange my diet. And I just thank God that God has provided all of these things for us to get well. It's just been an amazing journey for me. I'm so grateful to the movement. I was thinking, what's going to happen to me now? I was doing the syringes. I went from the syringes to the pen. Now I have a pump, which I'm still getting used to. But God is good. And I just want to say that I am so thankful that salvation does not rest on what we eat. Because we know there are a lot of vegan people out there who have no concern or consideration for God whatsoever. I think what we have to do is remember that we're supposed to be eating a little book, the Bible, and we're supposed to be listening to our angels and the messages that they give us so that we'll be reaped when it's time for the close of probation. And I think one thing this disease has given me is certainly a deeper understanding of God's love for me personally, as well as for all of humanity. And I just want to say, just a little commercial, and I don't usually do this, but I just want to show you how good God is. When I went into the ER, and, I was conscious. I went in, I was talking to everybody, and the head surgeon or the head doctor came in. And he says, well, hello there, how are you? And I said, well, not so good. So he says, oh, well, what did you do for your career? And I'm thinking, what? I'm here sick. Why is he asking me that? Long story short, the head of the emergency facility that I went to used to be a student at the school where I was principal at. And he remembered me. And he took my hand and he said, you're going to be fine. We're going to take good care of you. And he did. So even in that dark, dark place, God was giving me the light and the incentive to go on. And it was the most incredible experience of my life. And Elder Parminder, I can't thank him enough. When I told him this, came and baptized me, even in the midst of my trial. And I'm so thankful that God loves us no matter what. There'll be a lot of people who were vegan who aren't going to make it into God's kingdom. And I think that's what we have to remember. And Linda has a story, Taisia, or I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, has a story. but we all have something. But what this did for me was just solidify my love and my appreciation for God, number one, and for Elder Parmenter and this movement, number two. And it's made me stronger. It's made me happier. I'm probably more healthy now than I've ever been. I can't do, I used to love to travel. I wanted to come to the Sacramento meeting, but I'm still getting used to my pump, so I didn't want to, upset the apple cart, if you will. But it's just deepened my faith and my appreciation for what God can do. But I think too many of us, and I think Elder Parmenter brought this up in one of the meetings, the whole SDA movement was brought up with the temperance movement. And that was a secular movement. And I think too many of us are trying to hitch our salvation on things that really aren't as important as we might think they are. I think we need to get our hearts and minds aligned with God and this message, the true message. And I think that's going to be what is going to make all the difference for us. But I do thank you. I'm sorry if I was a little bit long-winded, but this is near. This is near.
I mean, it is really absolutely.
This is near and dear to my heart because, I know we serve a God. I know from my own personal experience, and I was vegan, and I lived by it. Anybody that knows me would tell you anytime I went somewhere and did something, it was vegan. But I can't do it now. And I'm so glad God will still accept me. And I think we all need to think about what is the criteria that we're going to need to have to really get into God's kingdom. And I don't know if just eating vegetables is going to get us there. So I just want to share my story with you, Emmanuel. I thank you for this. I'm usually very private. I shared my story with Elder Parmenter because I wanted him to know what it meant for me to do what he did for me, because I didn't know I was going to get baptized. I just couldn't travel. So I wanted to share that with you and help us to see that the kingdom of God is going to be more than what we put in our physical bodies. Because, Matthew, there's a passage in Matthew that says all that we eat it comes out anyway. It's drought. So I just want to give my thanks to Elder Parmenter and what he did for me. I want to give thanks to Elaine Steiner and Kathy McGraw and Aaron, the whole IPR team. And I just want to praise God. My whole life is dedicated to the praise and the furtherance of this message and God's kingdom here on earth. So thank you for listening. I'm sorry if I went over, but it's really, Emmanuel, I just thank you so much. But that's my story. And I'm fine now. I want you all to know I praise God every day of my life for this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. I appreciated that so much. I appreciated everyone who just kind of shared their experience. I gotta go, and I just want to say happy Sabbath to everyone. Hopefully, I will be able to participate much more after school is over. But I am so thankful that I was able to attend. This was really a blessing. And I did, before I left, I did want to say that this made me think of a more holistic holistic way of looking at just reforming my diet, my mind. And it just made me think about, like, in school they teach us all the time, when you're helping to save someone's life, everything that we're teaching you, you have to look at it from a holistic standpoint, mind, body, and soul. And I really, really appreciated this. Thank you guys so much. And have a happy Sabbath. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Anyone?
So I don't know if this is
Mayol?
where you're going. Oh, go ahead, Bob. I'll say it after.
So you go ahead first, and I'll comment.
If you insist. Okay, so the one of the things that no one has specifically said this or given the impression, I just feel that this is important to say because it's been emphasized before, that where we're at with our diet, even the way that we spend our time, it's not the mindset of we have the freedom to do X, Y, or Z. We have to live based on principles. So I don't know if that's even a question in anyone's mind, but I just thought that it was important that that's a distinction that I think this movement makes from every other movement in the world, is that the principles by which we act. And even if, okay, so the person that started veganism had the moral principles of preserving animal life. I don't actually see anything wrong with that. In fact, I would celebrate that as well, because in a message of equality, don't we have the obligation to not sacrifice anyone else's lives for our own, even if that is an animal? And while I agree that there are circumstances that individuals need to, to eat protein, to eat animal protein, those are external, outside circumstances, the exception to the rule, perhaps. It's not that they have the freedom to eat what they want, it's that they have to eat based on what's healthy for them. And I think if we approach our diet with that in mind, of doing no harm, of preserving life, not holding ourselves up higher than anything else on this planet, even though we recognize how special we are. God made us specifically because we are very much like them. I also think that it's within their nature to not kill. That's why we were given the mandate in the Ten Commandments. And while a lot of people apply that to humanity, I think that it's to all creation. That's the mindset that of having dominion, of not trying to conquer or be more powerful than something else, but to see the equality, to see the specialness in everything. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you. Before try to comment, regardless of animals, I mean, I also believe like this is just a personal belief. I don't believe in killing animals. So somebody can say like, hey, that means you are really vegan because like you don't like animal to be killed. And the point is like, my point was like, our whole point of us eating plant-based or eating whatever diet we call it was on the standpoint of health. And I think Amanda has one question about that, like, how do we know that what we are eating is healthy? Or where do we get that? I think one of the audience was like, from God. And then if we go to God, it is going to point us to Eden diet, which some of the things that we eat now are not included. Then oh no, let us not go there. So we go to like the point whereby we are adding more on it, like nuts and all kind of stuff in it. Then that's what like the principle of our movement say, and that's what we are like. As there are some exceptional, but that's what like the principles say. So, and if you go outside the wall and begin to okay, I don't eat this, then they will label you in a certain group, or which if you see yourself, you don't actually fit in that group. Uh, for itself, you don't actually fit there. If you still go outside, let me say if I go outside and say I'm vegan, I don't eat other food. Okay, they'll offer me some of the things that I don't even like, that I don't even like healthy, and my goal is to be healthy. So that's what I'm saying. Also, like you say, I'm a plant-based uh, person. If you go outside there, they also offer you some of the things that are not healthy, and they also like they belong into the point of plant-based. So I was saying like whatever is out there doesn't fit the criteria that we are trying to like the goal that we are trying to achieve in this moment. None of them. I mean, except we create our own diet that is like exceptional to us. So
Emmanuel?
yes, and also I really appreciate everybody for sharing the testimony, which is really good. For me personally, like before I came, I was in the movement. Yeah, I was eating meat and all kind of stuff until I joined the movement in 2018, 2019. I became like vegan back home in Africa, which it was really a big issue with my family. It was a big fight uh, until I came to America. Uh, and then when I came to America and did my high school year, I fall back to meat eating again until I reconnect back in 2023 to the movement, and then I begin to be a plant based again. So I've been in that kind of up and downs in the movement, and also like also adapting to a plant based also is like comes with a lot of issues, as most of the people say, and my goal is like to follow the most healthiest ever told diet or lifestyle on earth here, and I mean, if I want to like support my claim, I will support it with scientific research that are out there. Uh, that like if I need to be healthy, I need to follow this guide on how there, and also I need to be realistic with what is out there and what I have and what my body really require me to like. That will not be in conflict with my body, and or which I sometimes like what during my commuting, I think it was 2024 when I went to Florida commuting, and I asked El Pimenta about the vows, 17, the 20, 26 vows. I asked him, like, are they laws or are they just like some of them are advice? And he was like, these are laws. Then I was like, okay, if they are laws, I mean that policies. And policies sometimes they are made or they are made to be for everybody. Like you cannot make a policy that is specific to one individual. All the policies, let me say, if you talk about like the U.S. Constitution, it was made to like uh, meet all the needs of anyone, regardless of who you are. So, and if our baptismal vows are the same as that, if there are laws of policies, that means whatever is there is going to require uh, everybody, or it's going to be meet everyone's need. And I was really in conflict with that a lot, most of the time. And I was also glad when it was posted that like all the vows are being reviewed, and there might be like a reformation or like modification with some vows, and some will still remain the way they are because we need to know the reason why we are doing that or the reason why we are not doing that, and it has to be realistic with what we have in the world. It should not be like something that we should not be like based on the theory. It has to be realistic with what we have and how we are living on Earth here. Go ahead, Troy.
It's Bob.
Oh, Bob, sorry.
That's all right. It's interesting. We've got to hear, a few testimonies of different people that, that are working with their own situations and trying to make the best decisions. And it's interesting because when I look back at the Jewish nation and the Pharisees, and I'm not suggesting that we're being pharisaical here, but when you recognize that they were trying to follow the letter of the law, but they had lost the spirit of the law, and I've come to understand that our bodies are such complex chemical machines, and there's an awful lot of things that can affect it in a good way or in a bad way. And as Fell said, we have so much in common, and yet we're all unique. And I know for myself, I spent at least 30 years, with trying to eat a vegan diet. And and for me, I know without getting into any testimony, it has been a battle, for me to maintain good health when other people aren't having as much problems keeping their health. And so I've come to realize that there are individual needs that people have, whether it's a part of their life that they're in, and just recognizing that it isn't a one size fits all with the diet at all. I mean, there's guidelines, and I really appreciate this subject being brought up, because if more time was allowed, a lot of us could share more intricate details about things that we've experienced in life, with our diet and our health, and what things had to happen. And so I'm saying thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And also, like, with the issue, regardless of what diet you should follow, I would suggest that, like, we should at least follow what those who are personal doctors at least require you to do, instead of like just this is what the women say, okay, this is the diet you should follow, this is what you should eat. You need to like get a recommendation from doctors, from nutrition or dietitian. Personally, I'm not one of them, but I'm doing my best. I'm doing my own studies, and my most of my own research, and it is actually really good for us to also like do research on what we eat, on what we on what food we eat, and all kind, either it is plant-based, or it is vegan, or it is omnivore, which like you can eat both. Whatever diet you are on, you need to like really do some studies, do your research, whether it's good for your body or not, and also consult your doctors and stuff like that. And that will go like, I believe, like the most safest way to find out the truth is through research and studies and experiment. That way you can really find like the truth in that. I mean, there are a lot of studies in the world, and that are out there, but if you don't really study, you will study and do a lot of research, you will not find the truth. You will always hear from anyone and that and that and that and that. You will not like, okay, and you just go with what you feel like it is, even if it might not be healthy for your body. But if you have some studies that are accurate and you can prove that, and your doctors can agree with you with that, or most of the experts, they they can help you with that. And also, like, most of the food that are out there, as I would say before, like all these diet that are out there, they don't much like what is actually healthy, because they sometimes they go beyond. They include highly processed food, most of them, and that means you are, if you don't want to eat highly processed food that are going to cause you some diseases, then you're going to like, okay, do studies to know what is highly processed and what is not highly processed food. And I came to this conclusion because it's what I've experienced. Now, if I go to the grocery store, I check the level. I used not to check the levels, but now I go and, oh, okay, I see a lot of artificial colors and dyes and additives on some of the levels of the food, then I'm like, okay, I know they're not healthy for me, and then I'll stay off those food. So the most safest way to uh, navigate your health is through studies and through research. I mean, I know there are a lot of teachers in this movement, and there are a lot of studies that are going on, and also based on this, as Fel said before, health is not only based on what you eat; it include like sleep. Me personally, I don't fall asleep pattern very well. I sleep sometime at 1. That's not healthy, and at 2 at some point. Some point, sometimes I don't sleep if I'm being disturbed by something that I need to do in the morning. So, and which is not healthy. So we should include all these factors within our health. And also we should, we should also do research on sleep. And I know, me personally, I don't do a lot of research, but when we need to be healthy, we need to like do research on one particular things at a time. Or you can do all of them at one. You can do that. And this is what I was trying to share with all of you. And any comment?
Is the speaker on?
Yeah.
Right. You guys have talked a lot about processed food, and there's a big difference between a Cheeto and a dried tomato. They're both processed foods. I mean, humans have been processing foods ever since prehistoric man figured out that if he hung meat over a fire, that the smoke would cure it to the point where they could carry it with them and be able to eat it. And it's not processed food that we have to be aware of so much as how it is processed and what they've done with it. Because you can have a processed food that still has all of the nutrients that you need. And that's what we need to be aware of. And I've met people over the years that were against any type of processed food. The reality is that's not practical because even the vegetables that are on display at the grocery store have had a wax coating put on them so that they would look nice longer and last longer before sale. Well, that's a form of processing, but it's not like the apples that have been first pureed and then cooked and then turned into apple gummies. There's so I think we need to think about how much the food is processed as much as the fact that it is processed food.
Thank you. Who was that?
Okay, now.
I'm Linda's husband, Ron.
Oh, thank you, Ron. And yeah, they're like processed food and they are like highly processed food, which I can recommend you. Like, as you say, it is not realistic to just cut off all the processed food. No, you can't do that. Uh, at some point, you can. If you have your garden, you can grow your food and you have access to all of that, you can do that. But that's not like really realistic for everybody to do that. And that's the thing, like the vow does not like break it down to all of us, okay, this and that, don't, yeah. So just like make it as simple as it is possible, and then you go and break it down on your own. So with the highly processed food, they can be like plant-based, and they're also like dangerous for your health. So it is going to be based on you to like figure out on how to reduce or minimize those processed or highly processed food in your diet or in your lifestyle.
Exactly. I mean, it wasn't that many years ago when during the off season, everything had to be canned, and to some extent, canning with a large amount of salt, which was necessary, is not healthy for you. But it was their only way of preserving. Either canning or salt curing were two of the main ways of preserving, and fermenting being the other one. And it's really just modern society that has had the current methods of processing available, and we need to look at what is right and wrong about it, because better living through chemistry is just that. I mean, none of us want to go back to being forced to iron all of our clothes every day.
Daniel,
Yes, please.
I just wanted to share that it's kind of an emblem, or it epitomizes that this study subject you have chosen for today that we've been going over, because I don't know that I've ever had anybody just put up a presentation and all you have is the title, and then it ensues all this good conversation. So I'm just pointing that out and appreciating it. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, like, to give a reason that, like, about highly processed food is that most of them, they contain a lot of salt, of which, like, sodium is too much, as Ron said before, and your body cannot, like, balance a lot of salt. I mean, your body has salt, but if you add more on it, it will not. It will cause a lot of disease in your body. To balance that, your body will struggle with balancing the salt in your body, and also, like, you had a lot of oil in your body. I mean, it's just like it goes against your natural body, of which there's a lot of studies that I'm going to share with you later in the group that you're going to look into it. So it's not like processed food just bad for bad, but they're bad for your body based on scientific research and studies. Any comment before I close the studies?
Just one.
Okay.
Good study, first of all. And as far as the whole health thing, I think your body will testify whether you're on the right path or the wrong path. It lets you know if it's working or not. I know the older I get, I have to tune into my body and listen to it, because it tells me right off the bat if something's going wrong. But if I don't listen to it, there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems. And so I think it is important. This diet, this whole topic of diet is so important. And I think it's part of our journey that we chose to be vegan, to be right with the Spirit of God, or the message, or I should say. And I think it goes hand in hand, you know. So thanks for the topic. I got a lot of answers that I had questions to in my own head, and I certainly was blessed today. Thanks, amigo.
Thanks, amigo.
And thank you, Emmanuel, for your presentation. I just wanted to ask you, so you put the Eden diet does not equal whole foods, plant-based. So what is the Eden diet then? Could you tell us that? Thank you.
Okay, the Eden diet is the original diet. I mean, I will define it based on Ellen G. White, which if you read Council on Diet 81, she will tell you that the Eden diet is what was recommended in Eden, in Genesis. You can read that, and it was basically fruit, of which it doesn't include the other things like nuts and beans and all kind of stuff like that. So, and I believe I'm me personally, I'm not following that. I'm not eating fruit all the time, which I'm not doing that at all. So, and also, all food plant based is out there. People know it, and it includes all of them. It includes like nuts, beans, and minimal processed food, and not like highly processed food. But that's what I'm following. But that's not exactly what is original. That's what I was trying to say. Does that answer you?
What do you mean? What is this origin then?
It was just eating fruits. Are we,
Just
are
just
we
eating.
Go ahead.
What was that you said? Can you repeat that?
I was saying like the original diet that Adam was following before sin was fruits only.
Okay.
We call it that like the Eden diet, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what we are doing right now.
Sorry, is that what you learned at church?
What?
Is that what you learned? As an Adventist, I learned that the Edenic diet is fruits, nuts, grains.
Not
there
great.
were vegetables.
Yeah, back is
but there was fruits, there was nuts, and there was grains. So not just fruits, nuts, grains.
Right, but what Emmanuel is bringing out is that Parmenter in the studies, he deliberated or delineated that it started out as fruits, nuts and grains were added after.
Okay, yeah.
I never learned.
That's why we're not typical Adventists.
Is Olivine still there?
Yes. So when you say whole foods plant-based,
yes, I am still here.
Is that like grains and vegetables and nuts?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
So, Emmanuel?
Yes.
So one more comment. We don't know what fruits, grains, nuts were like in Eden. I just have to believe that it was perfect for Adam and Eve and all God's creation. But through just process of degeneration after sin, we know that the nutrient value of any food has declined.
That's true.
And along with that, the three things the marketers know that human palates delight in is fat, sugar, and salt. So they combine those in food for us human beings to consume and to buy. So not only has the nutritional value diminished, but we know that human beings have messed with the nutritional content. For example, why are so many people allergic to gluten? Because the gluten content today is not the same gluten content of the same grain that was 100 years ago. Even with fruits, humanity have crossbred the fruits to make it sweeter. So the sugar in the fruits today, even if it's vegan, we know that the fruits today, the sugar content is much higher than it was 100 years ago. So God knows all this. And we just have to, again, knowing our bodies, we think that, for some bodies, for example, like, let's say apples and grapes. Let's just take those two, for example. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's hardly any sour apples or sour grapes. It's all sweet. And so we're taking a lot more sugar than our body can handle and process. And so, the more we know, the more we can make wise choices.
Can I ask you?
Excuse me?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think for like the fruit that we eat now, they have more sugar, or they are more sweeter than before? Are they still healthy or no?
No.
Do you have a proof of that?
There's some studies out there. You can look at some studies. You can Google the studies that how, for example, like grain. I mean, most people know about grain by now.
Okay, yeah.
How gluten has been, I don't know, not added, but to make it more glutinous.
Okay.
And that's what, people having allergies to glutens. So that knowledge is already out there. But there's new studies coming out how certain fruits are, they're not necessarily adding chemicals or anything other than just herbicide and pesticide and all of that, but how they're being crossbred to make it sweeter. So, which means it has, I mean, there's literally, which you've never tasted, 5 years ago, even, like grapes that taste like candies. And I think some of them are called candy grapes. And you can see it's like, wow, this is really sweet. And, that's because it just, through crossbreeding, it just has more sugar content. So does it cause your glucose spikes? Yeah, it does. It spikes your glucose. So is that glucose spikes in your blood sugar level? Is that healthy for you? No, it's not. Are there ways that you can minimize it if you really like candy grapes? Yes, there are ways. So humanity have, through marketing, have messed with our food. So be careful, what you eat, and if you like it. Sure, is it bad once in a while? No, it's not bad. If you do it continuously, can it get bad? Yes, it can. Are there some ways to minimize it with adding different foods? Yes, there is. So, yeah, so Gloria says some black grapes are called candy grapes. Yeah. So be knowledgeable, know your body, and choose judiciously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Give me a
Thank
second.
you, everyone. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do need to come to an end on this really good discussion. We do have another study coming up in about 15 minutes. So if you want to do a closing comment, Emmanuel, and then give the prayer, and then I'll do a closing hymn, and then we'll take a brief break.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I really enjoyed this discussion. And I mean, when we all come together and learn new things, now I've learned like the grape called candy grapes. Amazing. And that's why like we need to do studies on what we eat to know exactly what is in it and what is in them before we even eat them. And as I said before, doing studies and experiments and research is the best way to find the truth. And I hope each and everyone does the same. And we are all like working towards the same goal. And in terms of diet is to be healthy and to live a healthy life. And also, like as you say, I will agree with you, Phil, that the fruit uh, in Eden, we don't actually know what kind of fruit were they eating. What we know is just it is written as fruit. We don't have proof. We cannot prove to anyone that okay, this is exactly kind of fruit that they were eating. But the fact still remains that it was a fruit, and human being has kept that language until today that can help us to identify what is healthy and what is not healthy. So uh, as long as the world still remains as it is, we can figure out with studies and we can actually know with the time. So thank you, everybody. And we are going to close it with the word of prayers. Let's pray. Thank you, God, for this wonderful day. Thank you for the discussion that we had about what we eat, about how we live our life on this planet. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to do the studies, to discuss, to tell our stories, and to come together and understand each other. I will also say thank you. May you be with each and everybody and to share a moment like this all the time. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.